So what's the first thing we're going to talk about here today?
Well, we're going to talk about what I think is probably the most neglected part of most people's classic cars, and that's the universal joints on the driveline. Now, as you know, Jeff, those are to allow the differential, which is sprung, to ride up and down while the engine, which is stationary in the frame, sits still. So you have to have some way to allow that kind of flex, and universal joints are the way it's done. The reason they're so neglected is because they're supposed to be greased about every 25,000 miles, but that doesn't coincide with the normal lube cycle, so people forget to do it. And they don't know their universal joints are bad until they notice a rumble or a looseness or a clanging of the drive line.
Right, now this one is rather stiff here, and that's easy to tell if you've got it out of your car, but how's the viewer going to find out whether they've got a bad U-joint when they go to evaluate a project car?
Well, let's step over here to my old truck and I'll show you.
Great.
Jeff, this universal joint is new, as is the differential.
Right.
But normally, if the universal joint is bad, there will be slop right here between these two yokes. Now, you see there's slop in the gears because that's the lash.
Right, that's coming from back here.
Exactly. But if you find slop in here, if you find movement, then you know the bearings are shot in here and these universal joints are going to have to be replaced.
Now, this is really not too terribly difficult to take out. I understand that the drive shaft simply just slides out from the front.
Exactly.
But then how do we get the back end loose here?
Okay, we need to take these yokes loose and split this rear U-joint. The front one will just slip out.
Right, these yokes here will come off, and then this is just going to lift off there. But a very important thing is to, of course, tape right here, and we're going to show you why once we get inside, because there's some little bearings in there that you don't dare want to lose, right?
Exactly.
All right, Jim, I'll let you finish taking that off, meet you back in the shop.
Okay. First, we have to take these circlips out, Jeff, and they can be a little tedious.
Well, we got it out, but as always, they drop on the floor.
Yep. The next thing we want to do is take a large socket and put it on one side of the U-joint, like that, and then take a smaller socket and use it to drive the U-joint into the larger one.
There you go. If you give you a little room there, just go ahead and tighten that up till you get the pressure.
Okay. We'll just start taking that down.
And what's happening now is it's driving this, as you can see right here.
It drives that out and it drives the other bearing cup into this socket.
Right, into the large socket over there. You want to make sure that your socket is larger than your bearing cup, or you'll end up prying that off of there with a screwdriver.
Exactly. The other thing is, you could do this with a bearing press at a machine shop, but this works just as well, and it's a lot less expensive.
I was going to say, why spend the money? Looks like you've got it there, Jim. I'll grab your socket for you.
Yep. No, not quite. Need a little more effort, and we'll have it.
All right, go ahead. So just a little more will do it.
Yep.
Now there we go, popped loose. Want to be careful that we don't lose that bearing cap, and in just a second we're going to show you why.
Yep.
Okay, Jim, we've got our bearing cup off now, and as I said outside, we promised to show you what's on the inside here, and these are those little bearings we were talking about.
That's right. That's why you tape the bearing cups in place when you separate the U-joint, because if these little bearings fall out, they'll roll all over the place and you'll have a heck of a time trying to gather them all up again. Now, if your U-joint just needs servicing, you can just clean these and put a little fresh grease in here and pack it again. And of course, if they're worn or galled or burned, then you need to replace the U-joint, and there again you want to put just a little bit of grease, just a fingerful of fresh grease in here. If you put too much in, you'll develop a hydraulic lock when you go to press it back in the vise, and you'll blow these seals.
Okay, Jim, so the next step is going to be our new U-joint kit, right?
That's right.
And that's over in the shop.
That's over in the shop.
Okay, Jim, well, if the U-joint is not repairable, as we said back there, you want to buy some new U-joints, and they come in a box like this, but this is not exactly the same U-joint as we took out of the car, right?
No, this is actually a U-joint from a heavier car, but it's very similar, and as you can see, we have the little needle bearings in here just like in the other one. Now, when you get a kit, always make sure that the bearings are greased. Take a little bit of grease and put in there, not too much. The other thing is, you want to make sure that you replace the locking devices. Use new locking devices on the bolts that hold the U-joint in. Otherwise, your drive shaft could fall off in the street while you're driving along. And you want to use one of these or lock washers if that's what's called for.
Now the other good thing about this too is I noticed that this has a Zerk grease fitting on it as well.
Yeah, and that's excellent because about every 25,000 miles you want to shoot a little grease in here, but you want to use a low pressure gun, a hand grease gun, not one with a compressor,
right?
Because you could blow these seals out if you put too much pressure in there.
Well, Jim, thanks for telling us more about U-joints.